Good morning, everybody. My name is Loretta Goodwin. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Aurora Institute, and my pronouns are she and her. I am so excited to welcome you to Day 3 of the Aurora Institute Symposium 2022. And we will begin this symposium by centering student voices through the student panel keynote. Here's a snapshot that you're seeing right now on the slide of the day ahead. And so you can see that we're going to have many sessions that you'll have an opportunity to engage in. And we invite you to introduce yourselves and share your reflections and reactions in the chat, and also to share your learning on social media using hashtag Aurora22. If you want to mention us, we're at Aurora_INST. We are recording the symposium keynotes and the breakout sessions, and those links will be sent to you after the symposium. At the Aurora Institute, we believe that learning environments should begin and end with the learners in mind, empowering them to participate in shaping their learning experiences. And as you might know, each year at the Aurora Symposium, youth take the stage and share with us what's working in personalized competency-based design efforts. And these young people also offer guidance to us to set a path for the future of teaching and learning. So today I am honored and humbled to share the virtual stage with students who are going to share their unfiltered ideas, their first-hand accounts, and reflections on what the future of education could and should look like. It's my hope that as you listen to them, you consider which common themes are emerging from their responses. I'd also invite you to contemplate what you might do to create personalized learning experiences for the young people that you're in contact with. How could you better support me? Now, let's hear from our young people. I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves. Please tell us your name, your grade and school, and I also invite you to share your pronouns if you like. I'm going to start off with Kalei. And Kalei, if you could introduce yourself to us.
Hi, my name is Kalei Delovio. I live in Rhode Island. My pronouns are she and her.
Thanks so much, Kalei. It's really great to have you here with us today. I'd love to move now to Louisianny. I'm not sure if Louisianny is with us right now, so we'll go in the meanwhile to Riley and Masho. Riley and Masho, if you could join us and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Riley, and I'm a senior at Souhegan High School, and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi, my name is Masho. I'm also a senior at Souhegan High School.
Thank you so much for introducing yourself to us. It's wonderful to have you here and representing Souhegan High School. I just wanted to check and see if we're able to hear from Louisianny now. I know she was busy coming in to join us. We'll welcome her as soon as she is able to join us. I'm going to pose some questions to the students and hear from them. And we'll start off with, if you were to describe competency-based education or personalized learning to a friend who doesn't attend a school like yours, what would you say to them? And Kalei, let's start off with you.
Okay. I would describe it as a way that the teachers or the advisors are looking at the student as a whole person rather than academically, but emotionally and socially, and taking that into an account when going into your education.
Thank you, Kalei. I really appreciate that you lifted up what you did, because it's really important for us to hear from students about how they think about this personalized learning. And I really appreciate your sharing that. And I also would love to hear from Riley about her thoughts on how you would describe to a friend who doesn't attend a school like yours, what does this personalized learning look like for you?
For me, competency-based learning looks like a classroom and a school where you're able to work with your teachers at your own pace to actually achieve full comprehension of everything that you're learning rather than just rote memorization.
Thank you, Riley. Achieving that full comprehension is something that we really think about a lot here at Aurora, and really wanting to move away from that just memorization. So thank you for lifting that up. I'm wondering, Masho, if you had any thoughts that you'd also like to add in on describing what the school looks like and how it's different for you.
I would agree with Kalei and Riley. Additionally, I would say that competency-based learning allows you to do different modes of learning rather than traditional methods where it's just like one way goes for all. But with competency-based learning, you can really individualize the assignment or project to the student.
That's fantastic to hear, Masho, and it's a great lead into our next question, where I'm really going to ask all of you to just share one or two highlights from your time in this competency-based environment, and what made those times particularly special or significant for you. I know, Masho, when we were doing the prep for this call, we talked a little bit about your project on the Romanov dynasty in Russia. And so I'm wondering if you can share with us what that project entailed and what was a highlight about it.
So yes, we did talk about that. The assignment was to do a big research project in preparation for something we do in senior year. And I chose to research about the Romanov dynasty. And it was significant because I got to choose what I wanted to learn. And obviously that made me more motivated to complete my work. But I was able to self-pace myself to research using not only like articles or books, but videos and just different things. And that was one memorable experience I had.
Thank you. And so you lifted up both the element of choice, that you had choice in the matter, and I really want to emphasize how important it is for students to have choice. And so thank you for raising that, Masho. And Riley, I'm wondering if you can share about some highlights, and then we'll go to Kalei, who can share with us about her senior thesis and the project that she did.
I would definitely agree with Masho that junior year project. It was definitely a big push because of the volume of what the assignment entailed. You had to have a large amount of resources, and depending on whether you were in a normal credit or an honors credit, it had to be 8 to 10 pages. And it was a large undertaking. And the fact that we got to choose what we were doing and researching on helped us stay motivated. I personally researched the apartheid in South Africa and how it is currently affecting their economy. And it was very interesting to be given free rein on what we were choosing to learn rather than following a curriculum decided on by the state or by our teachers.
Thank you. I love that full rein and that element of choice that you're lifting up. And Kalei, I know that you shared with us both about your freshman year project and your senior thesis. So let's hear a little bit more about those elements.
Yeah, so my freshman year project was a project that is done at the Metropolitan Regional Career and Technical Center in Providence, Rhode Island. It's familiarized as the Who Am I project. So within this project, it's literally like figuring out who you truly are. So growing up in the conventional school system, I didn't really have a good grasp on what I actually was interested in, what my hobbies were, and I was able to sit down and just research like, who am I? So I did my project on being Native Hawaiian and how that could connect to my education. And that actually put me on the path for my senior thesis project. So similarly to the research paper aspect that we were just speaking about, I wrote a paper in my junior year on the houseless population in Hawaii, where my family comes from, in the island of Oahu. And then I actually, my senior year, fundraised money to be able to go out to the homeless camps or the houseless camps and actually be able to give back to those communities, create a documentary, bring it back to Providence, and educate the students in Rhode Island about my hometown in Hawaii.
Thank you, Kalei. And the fact that you were able to create a documentary, I think is really significant as well. And we'll talk a little bit more in just a few minutes about the different ways that you can represent your learning. I'm wondering if you can also just share a little bit about your freshman year Who Am I project, because I think that that was something that was also really significant to you.
Yeah, so within my Who Am I project, basically similar, we came up with, like, we were researching. So when I researched about being Native Hawaiian, I was able to present, I had an exhibition where I was able to present to my advisory and other pupils about the different foods. So I made different cultural foods. I was able to teach them about the music. And I was also able, one thing that was very important to me in the Who Am I project was I actually got to sit down and be like, how am I going to learn? And this went back to my culture, because in Native Hawaiian culture, we do a lot of stuff hands-on. We're always outside. And I was kind of just like, how can I incorporate that into my 4 years at the Met? And then that's kind of where it all began. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we're getting comments in the chat that this is dissertation level stuff. So really kudos to you for all the hard work on this project, on both of these projects, Kalei. So I'm wondering how we know that we're still coming out of this massive pandemic. And during the pandemic, how did your competency-based education experience prepare you for dealing with your learning during the pandemic? Let's go to Masho and then Riley.
During the pandemic, obviously, everybody was left kind of to their own devices to an extent, at least at our school. We were forced to be very self-motivated because the teacher wasn't there over your shoulder saying, get your work done, please. And so I think that was the most helpful component for me, is that competency-based learning was already self-directed. If you want to get good grades, then you have to be self-motivated to do your work and do it well and on time. And so during the pandemic, I had already had that base of being self-directed, and that was the most helpful thing for me.
Thank you so much, Masho. That self-direction is critical, and we know that students who had that experience of practicing self-direction prior to the pandemic really fared much better during the pandemic, and you're just testifying to that as well. We're going to hear from Riley, and then I'm very happy to get the notification that Louisianny is here, so we'll just introduce her in just a minute, Louisianny. But Riley, let's hear from you about how the pandemic prepared you.
I would definitely agree with Masho about having the base of competency learning. As we got through most of our freshman year, working through all our different assignments with things like rubrics, and we obviously had work where our teachers would be like, all right, this is what you're doing. Obviously, ask me questions if you need, but I'm just going to sit back and let you guys kind of interpret this how you think is the best way to kind of complete an assignment. And I think the fact that we had already been left to our own devices somewhat allowed us during the pandemic to kind of know what was necessary to do. And I also think that the pandemic was almost like a step back from our learning, because, you know, it was difficult without having teachers, but it kind of proved how well our system was working, because we still had students achieving. And the fact that we always had a rubric connected to an assignment made it that what we needed to do was clear, and our teachers weren't forcing us to go above and beyond every time. As long as you are working towards your learning and working towards the achievement, they kind of awarded you to some degree, and they said, this is what you're doing it well, you know, keep moving, as long as you keep trying, we're going to get you to a successful point.
Thank you, Riley. I love that you lifted up the rubric as well, which is really critical. It's not just your teacher knowing what that rubric was, right? But you also were very clear on what the expectations were around assignments. So thanks for mentioning the importance of the rubric. Louisianny, I'm so happy that you're joining us today, and welcome. I would love for you to just come off mute and share with us your name, your age, your grade, and your pronouns if you're comfortable doing that. And then I will pitch a question to you.
Okay, so hello everyone, good morning. My name is Louisianny. I am 17 years old. I'm currently a senior in South Bronx Community Charter High School, and my pronouns are she, her.
Fantastic, thanks Louisianny. And I want to just start off with a question to you, Louisianny, about the role that mentors have played in your learning journey. We know that mentors can be so important for students, and can you share a little bit about your mentor and how they've helped you with preparations for college?
Yes, so in my school, everyone gets assigned an advisor ever since their freshman year. Starting their freshman year, everyone gets an advisor, which follows them through the 4 years of high school. And this is kind of someone who you see as a mentor because they help guide you along in your high school years. And it also gives you that sense of protection and just knowing that you have someone there. So if you ever make a mistake, you know who to go to. So obviously as a freshman, I know many people that were in high school, starting high school, can relate to this. You're kind of new to the environment. You're just trying to feel the waters and basically find who you are. So it can be very confusing. And in my school, they like to have and give us each an advisor. These advisors, not only do they help us academically and make sure that we're on track to graduate, but they also make sure that mentally and emotionally we're all there and we're all in a place where we know we can succeed academically as well.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad you made that distinction between the academic and the social and emotional support. Ideally, we don't want those in distinct brackets, right? We want somebody who's really supporting students in all of those different aspects of their learning. So thank you so much, Louisianny, for that. I want to track now back to, we talked a little bit about this a few minutes ago about demonstrating your learning. And we heard already about a documentary that has been produced by one of our students. So we know that it's very important for students to be able to demonstrate their learning in this competency-based environment in a number of different ways. Students can use portfolios, presentations, exhibits. And so I'm wanting to hear from all of you how you've demonstrated your learning. And let's start off with Masho and then Riley. Kalei, if you'd like to jump in after that as well, and Louisianny, if you have any thoughts on that, please get ready to jump in. Riley and Masho?
The first experience or event that comes to mind when thinking about the different modes of competency-based learning is also in my junior year last year. We had finished reading Shakespeare's Macbeth, and we paired off into groups, and we were supposed to, with following the same rubric that everybody had, we got to choose a mode of showing our knowledge and what we had read really means to us. And so Riley and I were in the same group. We made a comical movie interpreting Macbeth in the modern way. It was fun, but the important thing is that we all had the same rubric, but that looks different for everybody. And that's one way that I remember it.
And I love that you mentioned fun there, because we really want to make sure that this learning is fun for students, right?
Yeah.
Riley?
A great example of kind of the way that we exhibit our work very differently from other places is last year I was taking an AP course, and it was after the May date of taking the test. And it was only juniors at that point. The seniors had all graduated. And our teacher allowed us to pick different topics that we were really interested in learning in his field of knowledge. So social sciences, ethics, things like that. And I, with a group member, was able to research uncontacted societies, which you would never learn about in a curriculum because it would often be tossed aside as something that's not really important. But it was extremely interesting because we were able to do all sorts of research and make a final presentation that lasted a whole class, as if we were lecturers and our 5 other peers were the students. And we were able to present on a topic that otherwise we never would have learned about.
That's great. And I really love that you're lifting up that outside of the traditional curriculum, you're really able to explore your interests and have those validated, and then get the presentation skills as well, right? Kalei, did you want to jump in with an example?
Yeah. So there's actually a few things that come to mind. So at the Met, we would present a learning plan. We would sit down with our advisor, our principal, and if you had like a parent, a guardian, a social worker, you know, whoever you consider your team to be, would sit down at a table and you would say, here are my goals. These are how I'm going to meet them. And then at the end of every semester, we would sit down and be like, this is how I did. This is what I need to do better. And then we would take that into an exhibition and present it to our peers. So when I say peers, that could be fellow students, that could be your mentors from internships, your mentors coming from all different adults, and just being able to say, you know, I feel that this is how I'm actually learning. You know, this might work for you, but this is what works for me. We also, another thing we would do was huge with like the project-based learning. So we would go within our internships, and every single internship we had an end goal, whether it was to fundraise or to take care of an animal at a zoo or being able to write, you know, your resumes the way you want to. It's just some type of project. And that was another way that we would demonstrate our learning.
Thank you. And I'm so glad you lifted up the Met. For people who want to know more about the experience there, you can check out Big Picture Learning. You also mentioned project-based learning. PBL Works is an organization that really helps people understand how to do projects better. So those are definitely resources that I'm glad you referred to, Kalei. Louisianny, I don't know if you wanted to jump in on this one as well.
Yes. So whenever this topic comes up, it always reminds me of those times where we do SLCs. So SLCs is a student-led conference, which is usually our way of showing what we have demonstrated, what we have learned in the school, and that's presenting our grades and all the topics that we have covered throughout the semesters to our parents. So instead of it being like a traditional parent-teacher conference that every school has, we do our student-led conferences, which not only does it demonstrate what we have learned, but it also helps for us to be accountable for what we have done right and what we haven't done. So in a student-led conference, you would have an option of coming up with presentation slides or a Prezi video and just show, okay, so I did do this assignment, I didn't do this one, I'm in this class, what I'm learning so far from this class, what can I do better to make sure that the assignments that I haven't turned in are turned in on time. And just, it gives us not only that self of accountability, but also advocacy and speaking for ourselves and how we feel in those certain spaces.
Thank you, Louisianny. I'm so glad you mentioned student-led conferences. This is an opportunity to really turn those typical student parent-teacher conferences on their heads. And it's not just the parents and the teachers talking to one another, but this is a process that really is, like you indicated, Louisianny, driven by students. And they're the ones doing all the talking, all the reflecting, and setting the goals for the next learning and assignment. So I want to switch now to the next question for all of us. And at Aurora, we do talk about anytime, anywhere learning and how crucial it is to keep all of our students really excited about their learning. And we know that a lot of you are having opportunities to learn in non-traditional spaces, and you really are able to enrich your learning through those non-traditional spaces. So Louisianny, I know you took a field trip to explore some new colleges, so I'd love if you can tell us about that, and then Kalei, a little bit about your experience around that.
Yes, so if I'm not wrong, I believe it was in March of 2022. So we did, as a upcoming senior class, they gave us the option to go on the trip. And we visited SUNY Albany and New Paltz. So we did get to experience like living upstate and just having like to travel from one college to another, just kind of like in a student's perspective at a college. When it came to going to New Paltz, they also showed us around, just kind of like giving us that little taste of what college life would be for us. Just since we were going into our senior year in high school, we were going to have to take these things into account and really make sure that we would want to be in this space. We feel comfortable, or we feel like we can adapt enough to our new surroundings and kind of make that our new home and our way of just branching out as well, because you never know who you can run into in these spaces and how you can make these connections with new people and who you can network with and potentially be able to expand your just like expand your range of people that you talk to. So now you're open to trying new things.
Fantastic. Thank you, Louisianny. And Kalei, how about your learning taking place in different non-traditional spaces?
Yeah, so if anybody is familiar with big picture learning, a big thing that the Met focused on while my time in high school was internships. So 2 times a week, we were actually out in our communities experiencing different types of careers and hobbies. So for myself, at first I thought I wanted to work with animals. So I interned at the zoo in Massachusetts, actually, and I would be transported from the Met from Providence to Massachusetts. And then I also interned at the New England Aquarium. And then once I figured that I didn't really want to work too much with animals, I was able to go into behavioral intervention planned classrooms and work with students. You know, I was kind of all over the place. Then I went into healthcare. I got to try that, but that's the thing with these internships is you actually get to figure out, well, do I really like this? Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And, I have friends that went to conventional schools that are still trying to figure out what they really want to do while they're pursuing their bachelor degrees and such. And that kind of actually put me right on track. I was able to get my CNA certification within my high school career. And then I was able to push myself throughout college and working throughout that just because of my experience at the Met. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kalei. I love that you both lifted up the expansion of the places where you were learning, and not just the places, but also the people, the social connections that you made, and then that importance of internships, really exploring a range of different things so that you have a better sense of what you're really interested in and can decide what you're also not interested in, which is another really beneficial aspect of internships, right? So I want to switch now to hearing a little bit about student agency. So what does student agency or voice and choice look like? And what does it mean for you to have agency in your own learning? And we'll hear from Riley and then from Kalei.
So I think student agency and choice is not only within the classroom, but kind of outside of the classroom, what your school offers you. And it was really interesting hearing what Kalei was saying about those internships as well. Souhegan doesn't offer internships. We do have a wide variety of clubs and activities, and they're taken very seriously by the advisors who offer them. It doesn't have to be serious. I know that Masho is a part of chess club, which sounds fun. I personally cannot play chess, but they vary in kind of how much effort you put in and what their goals are. And I personally joined our student government my freshman year, and I've been a part of it ever since. And most times when you think of student government, you're like, oh, they're planning nice events for the school, they're planning dances, just things that highlight fun in student life. But what was interesting is at our school, the student government does so much more. We are a 46-person group, accounting students, staff, community members, and school board representatives. And we get together to discuss different things that are actually affecting students' lives. We can implement different proposals and policies that will better student life and also better our school. And that has really helped me understand what my interests are, because I started just as wanting to be someone who was involved. And throughout this extracurricular that has ended up consuming hours each week, I've realized how passionate I am about voice and making sure everyone is heard. And it's allowed me to know that I kind of want to pursue political science and maybe a pre-law path where I can actually help a broad scope of people be heard.
Thank you so much. So your student council experience is really serving as an opportunity for you to figure out what a major in college might look like, right? And an area of pursuit. Kalei, how about you?
Yeah, so to me, student agency is the biggest thing, is building our confidence, right? So being able to advocate for yourself, because you're the only person that's truly ever going to know what you need. Like, sure, your parents might have somewhat of an idea, or your teachers know what you're good at academically, but you as a whole person, you're the only one that truly understands that. So being able to have that voice and standing up, basically you're standing up to these people that have built this system and are telling you what's right for you. And rather than having to fight it, actually being a part of it. So like an example of this for me was growing up, like I had a really hard time in conventional schools. Believe it or not, I actually failed middle school. And then I was able to sit down with my teachers and be like, listen, like, this is who I am. This is what I need. And, this is how I'm going to thrive. And for once they listened to me and I was able to actually thrive. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. And that self-advocacy, we're seeing a lot of comments about that in the chat as well, and how important that is. And so much of what you all are lifting up is that self-advocacy. And at Aurora, we really want every student to be able to experience competency-based education, to experience these personalized learning environments. And so in our audience today, we have all sorts of people. We have practitioners, we have policymakers, we have district school leaders. And what would you say to people such as policymakers or district leaders about providing competency-based education to each and every student? And we really want to focus on this equitable access for students. So Masho, if you can share with us your thoughts, and then Louisianny as well.
So initially, when you think of it, competency-based learning is paradoxically very objective and at the same time very subjective, because what's helpful, I think, at least for me, and I know a lot of people, this is really helpful for, that you have a rubric which tells you, like a beginner understanding of this topic, it means blah, blah, blah. An advanced understanding of this topic means blah, blah, blah. And it's like when you ask someone for advice and they're vague and you're like, but I just want the straight answer. And so I think having there's always a rubric or guidelines, and that makes it so you know exactly what you need to do in order to reach your goal. And it's like we've been talking about, there's a bunch of different modes of learning through competency-based learning. And it's a win-win for teachers or instructors and the students, because students are more engaged in their learning since they're more vocal in the way that they learn, in the styles that they learn, and what they're learning about. And their teachers are not just arbitrarily giving them grades on how they're feeling that day, but they also have a standard to stick to. And I think that makes it easier on the teacher and on the students. And when the students are engaged in their learning, then the teacher is encouraged to teach. So there's no way to lose. There's no way to lose. It benefits everybody.
I can't even comment on that, Riley, on Masho. That was so eloquent. I really appreciate what you shared. Thank you. Kalei, how about from you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I'm sorry. I was going to go to Louisianny. Sorry, Louisianny.
Yeah, so competency-based learning, I really enjoy as a senior still in high school. It's something where you feel like you can express yourself, you can express your concerns in a safe space. And not only does it, like, that helps with student agency and advocacy, but it also allows that of kind of like, you feel like your learning is personalized for you and not just in general. And this really helps many people, because I know if it was like a regular class and you're like, you have these questions which you don't understand, and you tend to get frustrated. So competency-based learning really helps with that, especially when it comes to like having to go back home and having to complete assignments. You know that you can reach out to any of your advisors, staff members, and it really helps also for the staff members and for the teachers to see what each student has and what attributes they can bring to the table, and be able to help other students as well. So that would also be a way of like giving back to your community.
Great. Thank you so much, Louisianny. And I really appreciate that you lifted up the importance of relationships that you have with your advisors, with other teachers. And they're really there to not only help you, but also to know deeply what you're passionate about, right? So we're coming now to parting shots, your final words of encouragement for our audience. And we're going to hear from each one of you. So we'll start off with Riley, and then go to Masho, and then Louisianny, and we'll finish with Kalei. So Riley?
I would agree with Masho about saying that you can't lose with competency-based learning. I think in my 4 years in high school, it's been quite the roller coaster with the pandemic and going through so many different things, just personally and academically. And I don't honestly think that I would have been able to get through it so smoothly without a school that offers competency-based learning, because your teachers and your advisors are constantly focusing on you as a full person, not just on a student. And while they recognize your grades and how you're improving, they will also, focus on you as a person. How are you doing? Like, what could be happening that might be affecting your grades, rather than just saying you just need to get your work done. They say, hey, what can we do to help you out? Like, how can we work through this? And I think the fact that the teacher is always there for you as an instructor and a support system just changes your learning so much. You are able to be far more comfortable in an education system where you know that the teachers are supporting you. When teachers are throwing things at you constantly and seeing you more as a robot than a human, it becomes really difficult to kind of think of yourself as anything else. And I feel like that's where people stop developing and stop finding their passions. And I think competency-based learning allows you to grow in every aspect of your life.
Thank you so much, Riley. Masho, how about your thoughts on this?
I applaud everything that Riley has said. Like I said, there's no really losing with the competency-based learning. And I would also, blanking.
That's okay. We can come back to you if you have any other thoughts. I really appreciate what you have shared, and endorsing what Riley was saying, just about the level of support that teachers are giving, not just focused on the academics, but really on the whole child, right?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I remember what I was going to say. Yes, thank you, Loretta. I was going to say that it's just more clarity for everybody. That's my biggest point, that students know what they're trying to achieve. It's clarifying for them, and it's clarifying for their teachers to know where they are. It's not like, oh, you have to do I don't know, it's a little bit difficult what I'm trying to say, but the competency-based learning is brings more clarity to what you're actually trying to achieve in your academic career.
Thank you. Yes, the competencies help make clear exactly what is expected of you. So thank you for lifting that up and really emphasizing that, Masho. Louisianny, how about you?
Yes, so I think that competency-based learning is something that we can all get something out of. And competency-based learning helps students with their self-advocacy. So when it comes to being an advocate for yourself, like what, I forgot how to say your name, but I think it's Kalei.
Kalei, it's okay.
Kalei, yeah. So like what she said, when you are advocating for yourself, it can be very scary, and it can be like, if you're shy, if you're new to a new environment, you're like, you feel somewhat intimidated by these people who have already been here for so long. So having competency-based learning can really help you, because it helps you emotionally and it helps you academically. So it really does take both things into account. And when it comes to self-advocacy, you tend to figure out what you want yourself. I know me as a freshman, I did not know what I was going to go to college for. And it was scary, because I did know that I was going to get to a point where I had to choose and I had to decide. But with competency-based learning, I had my mentors and the people in my school to kind of like have them there as a way of support. So I knew that if I did make a mistake, I knew how to bounce back from it and not let it consume me so much to the point where I just felt like giving up. Competency-based learning is something that it really takes into account who you are and what you can bring. And it just shows you that you don't have to change what you want and your aspirations just to please others. You can be your own person and shine for who you are.
I love that, shining for you, who you are. Thanks, Louisianny. And we'll close out with Kalei.
I just want to use these last few minutes just for some words of encouragement. I just want to emphasize, like, never give up. I do like a lot of work now that I'm outside of high school, working with Education Reimagined and speaking to a lot of educators. And I commonly see a pattern that they're getting discouraged. Just to remember that you're also a learner. This is like a new and upcoming form of learning. And although it's been in the works for a while, we're finally seeing it spreading all over. And just remembering, like, we all need to work together. We all need to, continue to just not give up, because like, this is amazing that we're all here and able to speak to all of you and actually have a voice. So just appreciating that. And, thank you to all the educators that are here and listening to us as well.
Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking all of our wonderful panelists, Louisianny, Riley, Masho, and Kalei, for sharing their reflections and experiences today. We are seeing here the transformative power of personalized learning experiences coming to life just through their stories and what they've shared today. And we deeply appreciate all the attendees who have joined us. We really value your feedback to the session and would appreciate you taking the 1-minute survey, which will be dropped into the chat momentarily. I really appreciate you giving feedback to them, because I know all these students are going to reach out to me and say, what was the feedback for our session? So please take a minute to fill that out. And next up on our agenda is the session from 12 to 1, and those are breakout sessions. And if we could just have the next slide, please. The breakout sessions will be a number of sessions from 12 to 1 that we're offering. And then following those, we are going to have an opportunity for you to actually engage in networking sessions from 1 to 1:50. And these are informal conversations around common topics of interest. And you can see them listed there on the slide. And then we will be in the afternoon spending some time on workshops. And these will go from 2 to 3:30 Eastern. And these are deep dive workshops. They're meant to be hands-on. They're focused on providing you with actual guidance and information on how to plan, design, and implement these student-centered systems that we are talking about throughout the symposium. And you'll be able to leave from these workshops with concrete, actionable steps to implement changes. We then invite you to join us back here in the general session as we close out this 2022 symposium with our keynote plenary, which is entitled Future Focused Promising Practices to Implement Personalized Competency-Based Education. You can find the links and more details in the program book and the Aurora Institute website. And we now will have a break before sessions begin at noon, 12 Eastern. Thanks again to all our student panelists, and we wish you a great day on this last day of our Symposium 2022. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.